morning. We are back at it. We are on the Zealand Trail. Just got dropped off and I'm heading back up to meet up the AT again. So we took the 0 day yesterday, got some well-needed rest, and skipped out the thunderstorms. There were some nasty thunderstorms that came through yesterday, so we avoided that. And since I have already completed the section from Liberty Springs to Zealand Hut, I decided I would just jump to Zealand, hike into there, tag back up at the hut, pick up where I left off before, and then I can maintain my same pace and itinerary as I had originally planned. Headed back northbound. So today's going to be a nice lighter day after 3 straight 20-plus mile days on some rugged terrain. Today we just get to go about 16. Just get to hike in here to Zealand Hut, get across the Notch, Crawford Notch, and get up to the Nom tent site by the Mizpah Hut. Now where we stay the night. Be ready for the presidentials tomorrow. I also made a shoe switch for this leg. In years past, I've had a good time with Saucony's. I had a pair of Paragon 12s and then a pair of Paragon 13s that were super comfortable, but they wore out super quick. I barely got a season out of each of them in regular hiking years. One of them, the top part started ripping open. My last pair, after my last hike with the rower, the sole split in half down the heel on both sides and was separating. So, and also my local outlet store closed, which was my best source for getting them. So I decided to move on to something different. Found a pair of Solomons at Sierra, and then a couple days later I went to the Adidas outlet and found a great pair of those there too, which are usually my favorites on regular wear. So I tried them both on, walked around the neighborhood before the hike to break them in and test them out, and I was like, all right, I'll start with the Solomons. They had a nice quick lace system that tucks in the tongue, so there's no loose laces, don't come undone. And they were great to start. But by the third day, last like 8 or 10 miles coming into the Notch, they were eating into my heels. I was having a ton of heel pain on my Achilles. So on my 0 yesterday, I switched to the Adidas. I brought those and left those at my mom's in case I wanted to switch, which was a good call because I tried these, went for a couple walks around the neighborhood, and they felt great. So decided to make the switch. I'm going to try these new Adidas out for the next leg. Feel good so far. Hopefully it stays that way. Honestly, if I had found the Adidas here before I found those Solomons, I probably would have just got these and stuck with these because I've always been an Adidas guy anyways. But it feels good for now. Fingers crossed that holds up. Ah, yes, this bridge. Everyone that hikes Zealand or does a Z-Bonch traverse posts a picture of this bridge. I understand why. It's pretty cool. Nice view there out to the left. Oh, there's a great blue heron flying away over there. Probably can't see it in the camera, but that's cool. Looking up at Mount Tom up in the clouds over there, I believe. It's a drop over to Crawford Notch that way. Now we just got to find the moose. Where the moose at? Show yourself. They won't. They're not real. Moose are projections. They don't exist. I'm convinced. That we have officially made it back to the Appalachian Trail. It continues northbound that way towards Crawford Notch, and the Zealand Hut is down this way about a quarter mile. So what I have to do is head back southbound here to the hut and go just about 50 yards beyond it, because when I did my first round of the 48, turn my watch back on as I'm walking, I did a loop where I climbed up Mount Hale via the Fire Warden's Trail, came down the Lendahand, and then took a right on the Twin-Way Appalachian Trail right at the hut to go up towards Zealand Mountain, and did a loop that way. So the AT north of that Lendahand Trail junction is where the mileage for me goes dark. So I just got to backtrack here to the hut, tag that Lendahand Trail sign, and then once I head northbound, I will be tracing new mileage once again. and the loop will be closed. Last night, if I hadn't bailed out the other day for the thunderstorms, I would have stayed the night at the Guyot shelter, which is about 4 or 5 miles southbound on the AT from the hut here. And I would have just continued northbound and met it up here. So I figured this was a good spot to intersect and pick up where I left off. So let's get to the hut, tag that sign, and start heading north again. And bingo. AT Nobo, we'll head back that way. Actually, a previous hike, I came down this way and then went up the Twinway towards Zealand and the Bonds down that way. But gap is closed. I can officially turn and head northbound again. Officially on our way again. Just heading down from the hut. There's a quick stiff climb there to get up to the hut. I think I gained more elevation in the 200 yards before the hut than I did in the first 2.5 miles coming up the Zealand Trail, honestly. And we're heading back down. The hut was popping. It was just after breakfast time. Everyone was just finishing up their food and packing up their get bags and starting to head out on the trail again. So it was a hub of activity. But just topped off my squeeze bottle here. Filled up one of my extra vitamin water bottles just to have a little bit of a spare. So maybe I don't have to stop and filter quite so much along the rest of the way. And we will be moving on down the Ethan Pond Trail. I believe at the junction when I passed it before, it said it was about 7-point-something miles to Crawford Notch from there. I believe the first 2/3 or so is relatively flat going along Whitewall Mountain there behind the Tomfield Willie Range. And then it kind of climbs up a little bit towards Ethan Pond and then drops down into the notch pretty steeply. So kind of flat and then slight climb, then big drop. Not a ton of aggressive climbing. It'll be after that when we go up Mount Webster that things get the gnarliest for the day. Junction of the Thoreau Falls Trail that heads into the wilderness to the Wilderness Trail, which eventually connects you down to Lincoln Woods the long way. I'm still continuing north, 2.5 miles to Ethan Pond. We'll keep pushing on to there, grab a snack break once we get there. Explained completely why I've skipped ahead a little bit here between day 3 and today. And my first 3 days went to plan. I finished coming up south the Kinsman Ridge Trail here. You can see green is what I had hiked before. I haven't updated it since. But after day 3, I got down to Franconia Notch and closed the gap here, down there at the bike path. And then day 4, I was supposed to go up Liberty Springs and go around the top of the Pemi Wilderness and stay at the Guyot campsite there, and then connect down the Twinway to the Zealand Falls Hut and continue north from there. However, since the weather was so crappy yesterday, I decided it was better off to take a 0 and pick up my itinerary a little further down the trail today, considering I had already done all that section between Liberty Springs and Zealand. So today I got dropped off at the Zealand Trail right here and hiked into the AT, backtracked here to the hut and connected the dots there because I'd already hiked down to that point, and then just went down Ethan Pond, and now we're back on the way. Sitting here at the Ethan Pond campsite right now. And then we'll roll on down to Crawford Notch, which I've done there up the Willie Range Trail when I did those 3 mountains. And then we'll head up the Webster Cliff Trail, which I've also done. And then I'll make that connection that I've missed at Jackson, and then pick up the Presidential Traverse to the Guyot Tentsite for tonight. And then I'll be off on the Presidentials tomorrow. Right back at the regular itinerary. So yeah, big to not have connected the whole thing in one go. But the ultimate goal here was to section all of New Hampshire, and I will still now be on track to complete that at the very least. So mission will still be accomplished. Reach the junction of the Willie Range Trail. It's another spot where I'm intersecting where I've done before, because when I did my 4,000 footers, I came up this Willie Range Trail and went up that way. It's 1.1 very steep miles up to Mount Willie that way, and on to Field, and then eventually the AZ Trail and the Mount Tom Spur. And I will be heading right 1.9 miles down to Crawford Notch. Got across the railroad tracks. Just heading down the hill from the Ripley Falls parking lot and cross 302, and it'll be time to head up Mount Webster. We've reached Route 302, and now we just got to go up that. One big climb up the outside shoulder of that, and then we get to skirt along that whole ridge up towards Webster, Mount Jackson, and then camp. All right, let the climb begin. Here we go. Stopped under the bridge here. Just gonna filter some water up. I'll just fill up my squirt bottle and side saddle bottles there. Put some electrolytes in the squeeze bottle, have the others as reserves, and that should get us up the mountain, hopefully. All right, on to the Webster Cliff Trail. Climb starts now. 2.9 to that summit, and then only 5.6 to camp from here as well. It is just past noon, 12:15, so making really good time. Really looking forward to taking it easy on this climb, slow and steady. Oh yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Hello, Crawford Notch. There's that breeze. It is everything. Right down there, where I came out and crossed the road, the trail started going up. Come all the way up here. There's Mount Willie, Field, and Tom. Mount Willard at the top. And Mount Webster continues along that way. The summit's behind that lump you see there. It goes all the way up to the northern end of the notch. A little hazy out today, but it beats the heat being up here. So you can see from here is there with some falls back there. Looks like it's run pretty well. I hiked up there last year. The water flow was pretty slow, but still ran under the water. It was a hot day like today. Dunked myself. Felt great. It's the Willie House spot down there. Yeah, working our way up higher. Cliff outlook number 2. Yeah, I just took my last video from down there. Chilled in the breeze down there for a bit. Working our way up the notch. Jackson. Destination for the night. There it is. Springs Hut. It's about a mile and a half to go. Set up a camp. Platform 8 up here in the shade. Got it to myself for now, knock on wood. Maybe I'll have it to myself all night, but we'll see. It's 5 o'clock, so there's still plenty of time for someone else to show up, but got a good spot for now. Maybe I'll fill up on water and check the hut out. Good evening from my tent platform. It is about 6:30 p.m. Just ate dinner. Had the chicken pad thai meal, and I also had a bonus ramen since I didn't eat any of that on my first half. I originally had a packet for the first leg and one for the second leg, so I was like, I want ramen, so I ate that too. But yeah, still got this platform to myself. There's still like 2 empty platforms of the bigger ones further up, so if there's late arrivals, looks like they'll get those, and I should have a platform to myself. So should be a good night's sleep. This will be nice to have the tent set up on a flat surface, and it's going to be a beautiful night. Sun's starting to get a little lower. But yeah, got dinner down, so now we're just gonna charge up the devices and get ready to hunker down.